Welcome back to Truth Moment. Ladies and gentlemen, when I do a Truth Moment episode, I tell myself if only one person is touched by an episode of Truth Moment, or if it only resonates with one person, then I've done my job. I truly believe in this episode of Truth Moment, you are in for a treat. Mr. Roberto Palmer is with us today, and lives will be changed from this episode of Truth Moment. Mark my word, lives will be changed. Roberto, thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Truth Moment, where he tells his story, everything from redemption to jail to drugs and a life of learning to forgive yourself, the process and journey of forgiving yourself. Thank you for coming out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now I want you to get an opportunity, Roberto, to tell us where you came from. Like I said in the intro, in this episode of Truth Moment, we're going to talk about drugs, and we're going to talk about jail, and we're going to talk about the ever-present feeling of death being around every corner you turn, to where you're feeling like you have to look over your shoulder. And I know that many of my viewers may be able to feel like this, because mental health isn't just about, am I depressed? Am I anxious? Your mental health may be your sanity in worrying about, am I doing everything that I need to do in order to feed my family? In order to make sure that I don't pass away or die from the streets like one of my friends. See, mental health is very real, and it has something to do with each one of our lives. It's not just something you see on TV and not just something you read about. It's something that has a very personable aspect of it. And it's subjective because it's you as an individual. What are you dealing with? So, Roberto, please tell me what was your life like before you were cutting hair and playing the drums?
Well, with my life, it had a lot of gang-related things, a lot of drugs, a lot of losing loved ones. Me and my mom, we stayed in a poverty area where there wasn't too many successful people coming from that area.
Okay.
And we had our ups and our downs. We came from Charleston when I was 6 years old, came to Columbia, didn't know nobody, and it always been just me and her, so we just tried to work it out, make things happen, and like I said, it was good times, it was bad times. And then around the bad times, it really put an effect on me because, of course, my mom being a single parent, I'm not getting the full guidance that I need in order to be successful in life.
Okay.
But she always instilled in me that there's a God, and to have faith in anything that I do. And she always let me know to have faith. So regardless of what I did out there in the streets, regardless of what I did out there that I wasn't supposed to do, I always knew to have faith. And it's just been a long road. And I know I had to change some things up in order to be successful in life.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask you, you mentioned the good times and the bad times. Can you elaborate a little bit for my viewers out there? Like, bad times as far as what? Have you ever been to jail before?
I've been to jail a couple times over foolishness, of course.
Okay.
When I say the good times, when I say the bad times was like me and my mom being homeless, not having nowhere to stay, lights being cut off, things like that. Me feeling depressed because of what I struggle was, seeing my mom struggle really put an effect on my life, because it's like, it shouldn't be like this.
Okay.
So I decided to go and do something about it. I decided at one point in time, I didn't want to have to go to my mom and ask her for nothing, ask her to buy me some shoes, ask her to buy me some clothes, anything like that. So I took it amongst myself to go out here and try to figure out a way to make some money.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but I think what you said right there was just really, it just really resonated with me, because here's a person who grew up in a single parent household, so he didn't have a a yardstick or an example of what a man should do, but it was just instilled in him that him as a man, as a little person, as a young boy, could be and should be doing more. So he had no man to tell him this is what a man does for his family, but just within him, he felt like it's not supposed to be like this. My mom is not supposed to be lacking in these areas, so I then have to step up and do these things. Am I hearing you?
Right.
You correctly?
Right.
Where do you think that came from? Like, with nobody telling you how to do it, where do you think that came from for you wanting to do that?
Really not sure. God.
Okay, Roberto, you mentioned how there were some good and bad times. So if I could get you to elaborate a little more on what those bad times were.
A lot of those bad times were us not having no place to stay, lights being cut off, things like that, not having the finances that we really wanted to survive the lifestyle that we wanted to live.
Okay. And so what did you have to do? And what were some of the things that you had to do in order for you to fulfill what you felt was your role as a man growing up in a single parent household?
I felt like I had to stop asking my mom for money. Stop asking her to buy me things, and knowing that she need the extra money. So I go out and sold things just to make some money.
Okay. Like what?
Well, I sold weed, cocaine, things like that, crack, anything that I could do to make some money. And at the time, I couldn't get a job because I wasn't old enough to get a job. And we really needed money. And my environment was full with nothing but people that sold drugs, gang bang, things like that. So being a product of my environment, I would go out there and try to make money as quick as I can.
Okay. And at what point in your life did a young boy just trying to make sure that his mother didn't go without and that he was still providing for himself, at what point did that lifestyle catch up with you?
It caught up with me when I was 16.
Okay.
My first time getting locked up.
What happened? Tell me about it.
I woke up one morning, felt like I was gonna go and make some money, and I went into the area where the drugs were sold, but nobody was there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It was completely nobody there. Not one crackhead, not one drug dealer, not nobody was out there.
Okay.
So it was early, so I felt like I can go out here and make some extra dollars, you know. And for some reason, it's just been one paddy wagon riding past.
Okay, what's a paddy wagon? What's a paddy
wagon is the police van.
Okay.
Where they take a group of inmates or criminals and take them to Alvarez Glen.
Okay.
So the paddy wagon was there, and I looked at it, I saw it. Something told me to turn around. So when I turned around, I knew what I had on me, so I tried to get rid of it.
Okay.
So I threw it. And when I threw it, I just ran. I just dipped. I ain't looked back. I ain't tried to see where it was at, whatever. By the time I got to another end of the street, more than one police officer was surrounding me.
Wow. Wow.
So at me being 16, they didn't take me right to jail. They take me to my mom's because I was young, well, old enough to go to jail at the time. So they took me to my mom, told her I had a court date, and I went to court, and they gave me probation.
Okay.
That was my first time getting caught up like that.
Okay. I want to take this time to pause, not to cut Mr. Palmer off, but just to reiterate, the purpose of this Truth Moment episode is not to have him air his dirty laundry. That's not the purpose of this episode. The purpose of this episode is to give him an opportunity to tell you all about his story of redemption and learning to forgive himself. So Mr. Palmer at this moment is telling you all the things that he had to forgive himself for and how he ended up in a place being a product of his environment to where all of this was even a situation necessary for discussing. Because there are so many viewers out there who may have children, brothers, fathers, uncles, who have similar stories to Mr. Palmer. Or maybe you yourself may have a similar story to him. So I just want to tell him that, and again, to thank him as he gets ready to tell us more about his story, for even coming on to share this with us. This is huge. This is groundbreaking for Truth Moment. I appreciate you for this. So you're a young kid, you get probation after something like that. How was that? Was that a slap on the wrist for you? Did you feel like, well, I'm going to go out and do it again?
Yeah, I felt like it was a slap on the wrist. I was actually like glad that I didn't get locked up, but then at that moment I didn't really care.
Okay.
I didn't really care if I did. I was like, man, whatever. I felt like I was bad. I felt like I can handle it, you know. I felt like I was a man before anything, just being that young though. I didn't know what a man was because everyone that said there was a man around me was doing the things that I was doing.
Okay.
Was selling drugs, was fighting. They felt like the definition of a man was to never back down, to never be punked, never be played. So that's what I was. That's what I was doing. And throughout that probation, I got locked up again.
Okay.
So this time, I turned 17, just turning 17, and it was a little situation with school where they say I disrupted school. So the fact that I was 17 and I already had a background in school for being in trouble all the time, they handcuffed me and said disruption of school, so they sent me to Alvarez Glen for my first time.
Okay, and what is that?
Alvarez Glen is a detention center for all inmates and people like that get locked up.
Okay. So you got sent there. How long were you sent there?
For that, I was there for a day.
Wow. So another opportunity where you were only there for a day and you're feeling like invincible again.
Yeah.
I can do what I want to do and the consequences are minimal. Okay, go ahead.
So, went to jail for that, and it's crazy because when I got there, a lot of them were like, they lock you up for that, they lock you up for that, and I'm like, yeah. But it was just something to show me what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
Something to show me that this is where you're going to be at if you continue to do the things that you do.